In The Three-Body Problem, Chinese sci-fi author Liu Cixin offers a solution to the famous Fermi paradox. The universe is not empty of life. Rather, the universe, he writes, is a dark forest. There is life throughout it, but it's both hidden and hostile. Why? Because any intelligent life foolish enough to broadcast its presence to the cosmos is immediately preyed upon by other more advanced civilizations. And so the Fermi paradox isn't one. Life is out there, but it's intentionally silent. As sci-fi as the theory sounds, you're more familiar with the idea than you think. Every day we live more and more of our lives on the internet, in the digital. And every day that space is flooding more and more with bots, advertisers, trolls, data scrapers, clickbait, influencers, and mindless social media mobs looking for today's main character. The internet feels steadily more lifeless, but that's because, like those alien civilizations, the real human users are hiding in private apps, servers, and RSS feeds, lest they be beset by these digital predators. This is Yancey Strickler's dark forest theory of the internet, something to explain the declining realness of the web. And I know you feel it. It's hard not to when most photos are shopped, influence is bought, engagement is a meaningless number, and every article reads worse than a high schooler's first essay. Unfortunately, with the now unstoppable spread of generative AI, the forest is about to get a lot darker and a lot more dangerous. When you and I last spoke about generative AI, or AI that can generate new text, images, videos, sounds from training data, I was merely speculating on how this new technology might change your digital life. But you know it already is, don't you? When's the last time you clicked on anything, believed any headline or any social media post, not wanting to go through the time and effort to check whether or not it's ground truth, whether or not it has the right context, whether or not it's made by an actual person? How could you not feel overwhelmed in an increasingly lifeless and dangerous internet? The dark forest internet and generative AI is probably why you've retreated to the places you still get provably human interactions with people you might even know. Private spaces like text messages, emails, Discords, and Slacks. There have always been advantages to these more curated spaces, of course, but as cultural anthropologist Maggie Appleton points out, generative AI and large language models like ChatGPT are going to force us further into our digital bunkers and impenetrable silos, echoey though they may be, because the dark forest internet is exponentially expanding. Misinformation expert Nina Schick estimates that the majority of online content will be synthetic within the next year. Case in point, ChatGPT and its users are currently generating more text than has ever appeared in every physical book ever written every 2 weeks.
So by now, language models have turned into lots of very easy to use products, right? You don't really need any technical skills to use them. So these are a bunch of very popular copywriting apps that are out there in the world.
Here's just one of the examples of what's coming from Appleton's talk, The Expanding Dark Forest and Generative AI, the reason I'm making this video. Imagine that some political lobbyists spin up 1,000 decently intelligent AIs that can generate text and video, and then they tell each of them to go be influencers. The bots then instantaneously make accounts on most social media platforms. They generate their own websites. They publish independent books. With synthesized voices, they make mini documentaries on YouTube. They host each other on podcasts. Individually, they all appear to make a reasonable human amount of content, but taken together, these human lobbyists have created an automated content ring of lifeless engagement at a scope and scale that would take any one human a lifetime to create and curate. This is all possible with the technology that we have right now, and it appeared almost out of nowhere in just a few months.
But the point is that this is incredibly easy to do at this point with no technical skills.
Appleton's example isn't just hypothetical. Companies are doing this right now. In the November of 2023, Elon Musk's mistake user Jake Ward tweeted this: We pulled off an SEO heist that stole 3.6 million total traffic from a competitor. AI allowed Ward to quickly and easily export a competitor's sitemap, turn their list of URLs into article titles, and then, in a matter of just hours, create 1,800 articles from those titles that directed web traffic away from that competitor. Now imagine this kind of strategy for every single corner of the internet. Every business, every chatbot, every influencer pulled off faster and more efficiently than any human could even conceptualize. This is what's coming. The dark forest expands. Just over a year ago, we weren't sure any technology or indeed chatbot could pass the famous Turing test. But now, faster than we were ready for and without our consent, humanity is faced with maybe a more interesting question. How will we humans, out here in the dark, looking for light, pass the reverse Turing test? Alan Turing's seminal 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, opens with a simple question. Can machines think? Turns out thinking is pretty hard to define. So instead, he proposed a simple test. An imitation game, he called it. Imagine that you're an interrogator of two entities. Your job is to determine, through written text alone, which is the human and which is the computer. If a computer can fool you into thinking it is the human, then that machine will have passed what came to be known as the Turing test. Since Turing, his test was the popularly understood benchmark for thinking machines, and for those of us outside the wired walls of computer science, the Turing test never really seemed passable. It was like the uncanny valley problem for graphics technology. Computers are always getting closer and closer to rendering believable humans, but you can always tell something is off. Turns out primate brains naturally selected over millions of years are pretty good at recognizing faces. But everything changed with ChatGPT. Suddenly, hundreds of millions of people around the world realized that the Turing test had been passed. The large language model, you can learn exactly how it works in another video, now rates higher than human doctors on bedside manner, scores better than 90% of lawyers on the bar, and 99% of graduate students on the GRE. Unsurprisingly, every sector of human endeavor that trades in on human intelligence, which is all of them, is now rushing to incorporate this technology in some way. I've said that because of technology like ChatGPT, everything is about to change. But I don't just mean humans losing their jobs or falling in love with chatbots. I mean that Turing's fundamental assumption in his imitation game, that a human will have to decide what passes for human, is no longer valid in all cases. A reverse Turing test is a modification of the original, where the objective of one or more of the roles has been reversed. As AI proliferates into every corner of the dark forest internet, other non-human machines will increasingly be tasked with a reverse imitation game, where language models and other technologies will try to prove that they're human. CAPTCHA is an example of a reverse Turing test. It may soon not be the case, but right now, there are still no systems sophisticated enough to reliably read and reproduce distorted images of text. And so, the CAPTCHA computer decides that any successful deciphering must be done by a human. A test like this is important because without it, you can imagine websites being overrun by spam, scams, and bots. But it seems inevitable now that they will be. The specific phrase that LLMs use to identify themselves as an AI language model has started to show up in Amazon reviews, Yelp reviews, tweets, and LinkedIn posts everywhere, specifically because we don't have the CAPTCHA equivalent protecting those spaces. To these systems, the AI may as well be human. The time is coming, and coming very soon, when we will need CAPTCHA-like systems in place socially, politically, commercially, to determine what is actually human-generated content, lest everything you see online just add to the cacophony of a dead internet. We don't have these systems yet, and if and when we do, they are likely to lag dangerously behind what massively incentivized generative AI will be able to do by that point. Do you really think a platform like Twitter will be able to sort the synthetic from the simian and make the right moves here, when it's basically just shit posting its way through the apocalypse? So, how do you tell other humans and thinking machines that you are in fact human on a dark forest internet? Maggie Appleton has some practical advice for human signaling online in an age of generative AI, and the first is right here. Show up in meet space. Meet other people. Go outside and actually touch grass. Something no doubt was lost when our digital lives became more important than our physical ones. So let's go out there and reclaim it. This is not as fun or as accessible as the internet before it went dark, but it's probably the quickest and easiest way to prove that you are a human to other humans. The institutional verification of your humanness feels the most dystopian idea, but it may be the most unavoidable. It would have to be something that goes beyond a blue checkmark that you pay a rich man baby for. Maybe before registering a website, writing an article, or even posting to social media, you have to show up in person somewhere and verify that you are in fact you, and not just an image or voice that could be easily generated. Internet culture grew up around hating this idea in principle, but it may be impossible to avoid when any bad actor for free can fool millions of people into thinking that the Pope has drip, or deepfake a president declaring nuclear war. The last two tactics Appleton offers takes advantage of the fact that current AI models are indeed machines trained on certain data sets from certain places and at certain times. Knowing this, we can come together online and triangulate objective reality with each other to prove our humanity. Our brains are constantly producing models of the world and check those models against sensory input. Current AI models cannot do this. They don't know any facts, people, or world events that came into being after their most recent round of training, and they don't feel the world like you do. They don't belong to communities. They don't reflect on themselves and their history, or enjoy the richness of sensory experience. By communicating with each other online in a way that reflects the aspects of humanity apart from intelligence, we can simultaneously have more grounded interactions and be sure that a human is on the other side of the screen. Finally, we can distinguish ourselves in the dark forest by becoming what Appleton calls algorithmically incoherent. Large language models like ChatGPT only work by sequencing words that are the most statistically likely to go together in response to a prompt based on vast amounts of training data. Because of this, these models hedge and generalize. In other words, they basic. This gives real humans an opportunity to reclaim one aspect of internet culture that is still the most fun: creating internet-specific culture. No language model will be able to keep up with the pace of weird internet lingo and memes, Appleton writes. Using jargon, euphemistic emoji, unusual phrases, in-group dialects, and memes of the moment will help signal your humanity. End quote. It's possible that human culture could continue to outpace AI culture, like teenager culture outpaces their parents. Maybe Riz and Gyat will end up saving something uniquely human online. I wish I was able to end this warning on a happier note. I really do. And make no mistake, I am 100% certain that AI and its proliferation will lead to some amazing outcomes. I think it could provide free, world-class education to every child in the world, and it would just be on their phone. I think if anything is going to find a cure for cancer, it's going to be one of these large, intelligent systems. But for me, it is much easier to think of many more, much more harmful outcomes. Phone scammers using your synthesized voice to scam your parents. Thanabot makers who offer to bring back any loved one you wish for the right price. Nudify apps that are already here, by the way, that can make pornography of your 10-year-old daughter from a single photo. We are not ready for what's coming, and we need to think about our next steps very carefully, lest we all get lost in the darkness.